Hey friends, we are back with another episode of Katherine's Quarters. I'm so excited to talk to you guys because the beginning of 2021, bonkers. Oh my gosh, so much news. Super wild card weekend came and went so fast. So many good games. We're going to recap those and then talk a little bit about this weekend's divisional round. You know we have to talk about the NBA because mind blown. The deal that just went through today, so super crazy. Amidst all of the Kyrie talk, we are now talking about James Harden being at Brooklyn. It's insane. And of course, the culture segment is back. So let's get right down to it. So we have to start with NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. It was so much fun. 3 games a day, Saturday and Sunday, and possibly the best weekend out of 2021. That's because it was the first. But so many good wild card matchups. We definitely have to go through all of those, and then we're gonna see what they're walking into for this coming weekend for the divisional round playoff. So one game that I knew was going to be a must-watch game was the Ravens-Tennessee Titans game. Now, Tennessee Titans, what are they known for? Derrick Henry running all over the field. And the Baltimore Ravens defense literally held him to 40 yards on the day. Lamar Jackson had a great day for his first playoff win. He had a rushing touchdown. He did throw a pick, but I mean, he just looked good. And honestly, the Tennessee Titans could not get Derrick Henry started because that Baltimore defense was just so stifling, and sometimes it happens like that. They held Derrick Henry to 40 yards on the day. I mean, that man has 2,000 yards rushing for the season, and they held him to 40 yards on the day. That's 4 quarters we're talking about. They held him to 40 yards. So they will go up against the Buffalo Bills this weekend, and the Buffalo Bills have been clicking on all cylinders. I mean, Josh Allen has come into his own in this last season in particular, and he got Stephon Diggs. I mean, they have what's that tight end, Dawson Knox. I mean, they are in a good place, and a lot of people are picking the Bills. This game, I think, should be a pick 'em. They both started to click right at the right time, so I really think that this is going to be a great game to watch. Honestly, my heart is picking Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, but my head is picking Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So who knows? It's a toss-up. We will see next week on the next episode of Katherine's Quarters. The Saints-Bears game was not one that I was particularly excited about, but it was an okay game. Obviously, the Saints stifled anything the Bears tried to do. So now we're gonna have the greatest 40-year-old quarterback matchup ever, because we have the Saints taking on the Tampa Bay Bucks. So it's gonna be Drew Brees versus Tom Brady, and they both have really good offenses. I mean, let's not sleep on this game. This game might be one of the best of the weekend. Both defenses are actually very good. I think it's going to be a very balanced game. I'm excited to watch the Saints take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I also think that game should be a pick 'em. I mean, how do you bet on that? I mean, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league, 2 of the best offenses in the league, if you really want to be honest about it. Like, this game is going to be so good. Just take my word for it. Watch the Saints Buccaneers game. You will not be disappointed, guaranteed. If we are, I'm sorry. So we've all come to know and love the Browns-Steelers matchup, and the Browns definitely beat the Steelers 48-37 or something like that. And it was definitely a thrilling game, but it was thrilling in a weird way because the Steelers just kept making all of these like crazy errors. I think Ben Roethlisberger threw 4 interceptions in the first quarter, and it was just like, at the end of the first quarter, 28-0. I mean, if you watch the first play of the game, you're like, well, this is going to be a doozy, because it was just all over the place. The Browns don't have it easy though. The Browns are headed to Arrowhead Stadium to play the very well rested, very exciting to watch Kansas City Chiefs team. So, I mean, this is a big week for them. This is gonna be great, and I really hope that the game is exciting. That Chiefs team is great. Hands down, they are the defending Super Bowl champions, so that's a great team that they have assembled over there. But it's not like the Chiefs have been, blowing everybody out 50-25 all season. So we will see. I think it'll be a good matchup. I don't know that I give the Browns another week to be amazing. I don't think the Browns are gonna score 47 points again, but even still, that matchup with the Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't think is going to be a walk in the park. So I also think that's going to be a good game. It's not a pick'em game. The Kansas City Chiefs are definitely going to win, but I think we'll be very entertained though. And that's really all I want. And then the last of them, the Los Angeles Rams. Now I'm very hard on Jared Goff all of the time, and I think that's more so my problem than it is the Los Angeles Rams problem, because I started Jared Goff all season in fantasy football, and that just didn't bode well for me. But the Los Angeles Rams beat the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seattle Seahawks, honestly, they look a mess. I mean, DK Metcalf was all upset about not getting the ball for most of the first quarter. I mean, I don't really know what's going on with them. Like, the defense is not what it used to be. Like, they just seem like they're struggling, like receivers dropping balls. It's just a little bit all over the place for me. And that Seattle Seahawks team, even a year ago, looked better than they did this year. So I don't really know what's going on with them, but nevertheless, John Wolford started for the Rams and he got taken to the hospital. I hope that he's okay. But then Jared Goff, who just had thumb surgery, had to come into the game. For a guy who was just in the hospital, he played pretty well. And also they won. So that's exciting for them. But again, they are moving on and they are going to go play Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. I picked the Packers to represent the NFC. So here we are. And it's not a real chance that the Los Angeles Rams change my mind, because they've been kind of up and down and inconsistent all season. I'm not really picking them now to be the Packers. It's just not where we're at. But either way, this weekend, another weekend full of football. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, guys. It's gonna be great. I'm so sad, because that just means that the closer we get to the Super Bowl, the more sad I get, because that just means I'm going to have to go more months without football. The way the Eagles season ended, I don't want to wait for more football. Like, I'd like for the football season to be like the basketball season and just start a month and a half after it ends. Like, just bring football back, why don't you? We'll talk about that, because the NBA season is looking like it might be postponed again. So what a great transition. We definitely have to talk about the NBA. There's so many injuries. COVID protocols are changing. Just, there is so much happening. But first things first, we have to talk about this trade. James Harden is now a Brooklyn Net. It'll be James Harden, Kevin Durant, and if Kyrie decides that he wants to play basketball again, Kyrie Irving, because they traded away everybody else. The Brooklyn Nets gave away a lot of things. Like, they gave away a lot of really good young players. So Victor Oladipo from the Indiana Pacers is now going to go to Houston, which is not horrible for Houston, because remember, Houston just got John Wall from the Washington Wizards. What's his face? PJ Tucker is still there. Now they get Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and some guy's name I can't pronounce. Canucks, I think his name is. And so Victor Oladipo, coming from the Pacers, Karis LeVert and a second-round pick now go to the Indiana Pacers. The Cavaliers get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. If you look at the potential starting lineups for each of the teams, the Brooklyn Nets don't look so bad. I mean, they still have Jeff Green, they have Joe Harris. I feel like they're gonna be in a good place. I'm upset for my Celtics. You still have the Miami Heat team. You know, it's not like we count the Milwaukee Bucks out. It's not like you count out Philadelphia 76ers. Like, it's not like these teams have gotten good. Barring any crazy injury or like Kyrie just deciding that he wants to walk away from basketball like people have been speculating today. And then the Houston Rockets, I mean, John Wall is coming off an injury, so he has a lot to prove to people that, you know, have been claiming that he just wants to collect a check and gets injured all the time. Like, it's not like he doesn't want to win. You know, you add in Victor Oladipo to that mix. I mean, PJ Tucker is a solid player. I don't know, you know, hopefully he stays in Houston. But like, I don't think we can write off that Houston roster either. So we'll see how this works out. But I really think if this could work out, it would be so fire. And like, you see all these guys tweeting, like all of these NBA players from all over the place. Guys were just like mind blown. And what's exciting news, the NBA has had a lot of games in the past like 6 days get canceled or postponed. The NBA is going to have its work cut out for them to figure out how to safely have a season. And guys are just being irresponsible. If you look at the greater society, I mean, we've all seen the reports about people holding anti-mask rallies and all this other foolishness. The NBA is a microcosm of that. We've seen guys just not want to adhere to these protocols. And hey, we're all human. But at the end of the day, like, no, we can't force you to wear a mask. But we can say that if you don't wear a mask, you'll get fined. We can say if you don't wear a mask, you will have to sit out from games until we can get you tested to make sure that everybody else who is following the rules doesn't get exposed because of your buffoonery. You won't just be paying 15 grand, 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. You gonna be out here paying millions of dollars because you don't wanna listen. There is no way that the NBA can continue on with the way that this last like week and a half has gone. It's just not gonna happen. Like, you're gonna have games into November for this one particular season if that's what we're doing. But let's talk about Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie has given you all that you need to assess him. Kyrie is a phenomenal basketball player. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love watching Kyrie play basketball. He's not being professional. He's not being mature. Kyrie Irving hasn't shown up for work. Steve Nash doesn't even know if he's gonna return for the season. Now, obviously, like, they're not gonna say Kyrie's decided that he's not gonna come back, but like, Kyrie has not played in the last like 2 or 3 games. He seems to be more about himself than he does about the team. Like, he can say out of his mouth that he is a team player and that he wants to be a leader and all of these other things, but all of his actions do not support that claim. How do you not show up for work? How do you not show up to play the game that you say that you love? Like, what are we talking about here? And I get it. The last week has been insane. After the domestic terrorists literally laid siege to the Capitol, I get it. Like, we were all mind blown that day, and honestly, up until now, I don't even know when we're going to get past that, because it's just that it's never happened. If everybody in the Brooklyn Nets organization knows why Kyrie is MIA, then fine, I accept it. Happy for you all, bless, right? But like, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. So until somebody tells me that the entire Brooklyn Nets organization understands that Kyrie Irving has just decided to take a sabbatical from basketball, what he's doing is crazy. And he's gonna come back and he's gonna pretend like, oh, you guys always make such a big deal out of everything. Yes, because what? I want it to work. I just wanna know what that's gonna look like on the court. I'm confused, I'm excited. I don't know how to feel. I have all the emotions. What a Wednesday, because how do we get here? So it's only fitting that we do a culture segment. I'm not calling it a pop culture segment because pop culture just feels too fluffy for what I want to talk about today. I originally thought that I wanted to do like a 2021 things that 2020 didn't give us, sports edition type of pop culture segment. No. I have one thing that I would like to ask for in 2021. Sports edition that 2020 gave us a little bit of, but like I'd like a little bit more, right? Like a little bit more moving forward. The Capitol was ambushed by domestic terrorists last week, and last year there were a lot of Black Lives Matter protests that happened, and people tried to call them riots. There's been a lot of false equivalency between the two, and to be clear, and I would like for a lot of the sports leagues to also be very clear, and they have been. Like, there's been a lot of condemnation across the sports leagues. You know, the sports world always intersects with politics in a way because we're all still human beings who live in this country. So when that Capitol attack happened, it was like everybody's watching the craziest thing that they've possibly ever seen in their lives and equating it or comparing the reactions to last summer's Black Lives Matter protests. And it does the argument a disservice to not be very clear that the people who terrorized the Capitol building last week were doing that because they felt and thought and believe and were told that the election was a fraud without any evidence. Black Lives Matter protests are the complete opposite of that. We see. So therefore those two things cannot be compared. But what I will say is, when it comes to 2021 and the continuation of activism this year and for years to come, I would just like to see sports leagues continue to do that. You write Black Lives Matter on the court, that's beautiful. What are we doing now? We need to continue to shed light, and we need to continue to put action behind the words and the slogans that we so excitedly put on everybody's televisions and phones. So that's the one thing that I ask for in 2021. the sports edition, continue to not only be about sports, but actually about the people who you entertain and the people who provide that entertainment that you employ. Let's start there. All right, friends, that's it for this episode of Katherine's Quarters. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, if you have not, hit the subscribe button below to make sure you get all of the notifications when the new content comes out. And of course, as always, NFL Divisional Weekend, and make sure that you follow me on Twitter because you know I will be tweeting all about the games, live updates, and maybe I'll even give some fantasy updates if I'm feeling up to it. But so excited for this whole weekend. And of course, you know we're going to talk about whatever is going on in the NBA because there's a lot of moving parts to that as well. Check you guys later.